Ladies and gentlemen, we would now welcome architect SONALI RASTOGI, founding partner, Morphogenesis, New Delhi for the address. And ma'am will be talking about, wow, Surat Diamond BOURSE, world's largest office building, a symbol of community impact. Of course, the world's largest platform for women designers and architects only fits for a leader like architect SONALI to come in. Architect SONALI is the founding partner of Morphogenesis, a leading award-winning architecture and urban design practice in New Delhi. She graduated from the School of Planning and Architecture. Ms. Rastogi, your fans, your patrons are waiting to hear you. So with a big round of applause, can we have architect SONALI on stage with us?
Hi, my name is SONALI RASTOGI. I'm the founding partner of Morphogenesis. Today I'm here to share with you a project that we finished earlier this year. It's called the SURAT Diamond BOURSE. And very few people knew much about it, even though it is the world's largest single building. Very few people knew anything about it till I first time understood that architecture also goes viral. So about a month ago, or maybe a little bit more than that, yeah, I think it was the end of July, where CNN US picked up this news. And as they announced it, I was actually traveling, and I was in shock at the kind of, like every 5 minutes, some globally important media house was flashing it as breaking news. It was at 8 p.m. NDTV breaking news. I mean, since I was very pleasantly surprised, because since when did buildings make it to breaking news, right? Politics makes it to breaking news, disasters make it to breaking news, Olympics make it to breaking news, cinema makes it to breaking news. Like, I didn't know buildings make it to breaking news. But having said that, it has made breaking news on my last count, which was several weeks ago, in over 300 news channels across the world. It has been breaking news. And it was very, very, very surprising, because it's just never happened in my lifetime. Like, I've never heard of buildings making breaking news. It made it breaking news, I think, for many reasons. You will see the building shortly, but more than building, I think it is a vision by which a community just decides to do something for itself and does it. And that's what was very, very exciting. So this was launched as a competition 5.5 years ago, and it was launched by the community of Surat Diamond workers, and it was a global competition. And they did it all right. They hired competition managers, PMCs, and various people who then made a short list, and it was an invited competition. And they were 30, then second stage shortlist 6, and then we were the final winners of a competition. And fair and square and open. I mean, I had no idea. I had never been to Surat. I had no idea who these people were, who these clients were. So I can say it was fair and square competition. And this project has been most professionally built. I mean, I'm talking from almost 30 years of experience, as professionally as a project can get built. That's what the uniqueness about it is. That's how in 4.5 years, of which 2.5 were in COVID, you build the world's largest building. And it's just silently done. No fanfare till CNN decided to have fanfare about it. So I have learned to appreciate how communities work together, more so in this project than anywhere else. So this is what I want to share with you. And that's why I call it a symbol of community impact. I'm not calling it a symbol of world's largest icon or anything like that. It's a symbol of how a community makes impact. So it is located in something called Dream City, which is just on the outskirts of Surat. You can see Surat in the far back, little buildings. And it is almost like how 30 years ago Gurgaon perhaps happened to Delhi. So, but this is a planned development. This is the first building in it. That's why I call it a seed building. And when the first building is of this nature, surely the town has already various projects are envisaged, they are launched, and they're going to take place. So you can see Surat city. It was a 65,000 occupants that wanted to alleviate their daily life from working conditions like this. Okay, this is how they would work before. So they had a dream to make a grade A commercial office building for themselves. So people who work in these situations had that dream. But they also had other parameters. I'm stopping myself from saying constraints, but they had other parameters. They had already collected the money. They had already decided who's paying for 200 square feet and who's paying for 500 square feet. And the total money they had was $500 per square meter. Okay, that was the total money they had. And so it was given. Unlike other projects I've done where the building gets made, it gets sold. It was pre-sold, so the money was finite. This was the money. Okay, the scale is 34.5 acres. Density was 65,000 people were going to be in it, in 4,500 offices, some as small as 300 square feet, 28 meters square, and some as large as 7,000 meters square. Bulk of them were of the smaller sizes, bulk of them. And the functionality brief was that each office has to be able to operate independently, and we all trade and deal together. Like if a customer comes to one office, he's almost never allowed to go away because instantly messages go around everywhere in the boards that he needs this, do you have it, do you have it, do you have it? But a customer is never sent away. Okay? And adaptability, so they understand that there are fluctuations in the way diamond trade works, and the unit sizes had to be adaptable if somebody is expanding, reducing, and all of that thing. One of the other things that inspired them to give the project to us was that we understood that the number of people in this building are like an airport. The only difference is airport, the flights are throughout the day and people come and go throughout the day. In this, they will come within the 30 minutes or 1 hour at the maximum. So we looked at how people move and how they can efficiently reach their office. Our target was 5 minutes, but in 5 to 7 minutes, everybody, whoever enters the compound can be in his or her office. So that's a lot of time saving to get to your office. So the decision-making process was of a cooperative where they appointed committees, some committee for procurement, some for construction, some for design decisions, some for something else. And we were always presenting to a committee whose job it was to then go out and get permission from rest of the clients. So this was also very streamlined and very organized, and I have to say there was almost not one reversal of a design decision throughout the process. Decision taken for move forward. There was no reversing or changing any decision. So environmental sustainability, which is the backbone of how Morphogenesis works, but we had to really pay a lot of focus onto this because there was no way of otherwise meeting the price point, right? So in order to meet, and this is price point with finished common area interiors, and in buildings of this scale, common areas are 50%. So with all interiors, everything, we had to build it in, finally the figure that we built it and we got from the auditor was 4,200 rupees a square foot, all finished, like completely finished, right? Every light fixture, every art installation, everything. So in order to achieve this figure, we had to reduce capex and in the long term reduce opex because they also had a very clear metric of how much they want to charge each person as a maintenance cost. So this is what I call metric-based design. Okay, a lot of people around the world will perhaps, raise a little skeptical eyebrows at this, like where is the fantastic sketch that started the project? Yeah, sketch is there and sketch will come, but this is metric-based design because this is a community that gave us figures. These are the number of people, these are the sizes of it, this is the amount of money, this is how many hours we need to spend in office, and this is how much capex we have and how much opex we have. So it would be ridiculous not to work with that brief. So we set metrics for everything, that how much is the travel time, how much is the waiting time, how much area has daylight, efficiency, how much can microclimate help in reducing temperature, because only when you reduce temperature in a hot place like Surat can you reduce the air conditioning So including structural optimization. So we actually started reverse working, that what is the cheapest structural grid to go in a basement from where we can reverse back up. Okay, because we are parking cars or scooters, two-wheelers for 65,000 people, right? It's not, that basement in itself is a city, okay? So again, the distances, how people move was designed on metrics. Now this is the sketch that you're waiting for. So we looked at the most efficient way in nature where resources are distributed. So whether they are leaves, whether they are fish, whether it's the human spine, this is a common pattern by which resources are distributed. So we just simply plagiarize this pattern and we use that to design a building. Okay, as simple as that. So it's a simple, straightforward, spine-like building. So the main resource travels down the center of the spine and then distributes to all the ancillary wings. So that's the very simple plan of this project. Now, this central spine that you see is entirely non-air conditioned. Okay, so and this is spreading across end to end on 35 acres. So for it to be not air conditioned and move these many people, so therefore we needed to accelerate wind movement through it. We needed to make this an urban park versus a corridor. And the shaping of the spine was to catch the prevailing wind directions. The distance between each wing was aimed at so that at least 50% of the courtyards are shaded. Now, interestingly, when we did a lot of case studies in the old diamond markets of Surat and in Mumbai, not in Bharat Diamond Bourse, but in the older opera house area markets, we realized that more people work outside than they work inside the offices, because they have people who are day traders who bring a potly of diamonds from somewhere and then give it to someone else. And that kind of trade with people who don't even own offices goes on all day long, all day long. And so we spoke to the client, who was also very well aware that other than these 65,000 registered people of the building, there will be a lot of day trading going on. So which is why half the courtyards are shaded in the morning and half the courtyards are shaded in the afternoon. So the building distance was decided based on how to get maximum shade in the courtyards. This is a section through the spine. So we created 14th floor vertical gardens which were serving two purposes. They were helping us with stack effect and therefore dissipating heat. And second, this was the place where it was a pause space inside the spine for people to hang around like a park, trade, eat food, do whatever it is that they normally do. So there was no intention of taking away from their generations of working or eating or talking in a certain way and just sticking them into 30 square meter offices. So all of their regular activity in the informal manners that they work in was accommodated in the non-50% which was sold offices. So this is a sketch of how that vertical park works. It keeps shifting so that you can also see down, you can see activity downstairs and upstairs. These are the courtyards, so you can see the scale of the outdoor spaces that was provided. And on the right hand side, of course, is because this is also a special economic zone, has its own customs houses, its own security, its own police, its health clubs, facility management, fire tenders. It has everything within this. So all of that activity was the ground floor of the project. And this is a typical floor plan. And this is a building section. What you see, you'll see that the buildings are, the wings are very slim. The reason they are so slim is because of the 100% daylight in the office and 75% daylight overall always available to work in. So that's the reason that the buildings were kept very, very slim. So the microclimate strategy is to reduce 5 to 7 degrees of the temperature via passive design, which is shading, also via courtyards, And then finally, radiant cooling system was installed, which to my knowledge, the only other equally large project that works on radiant cooling is a Bangkok airport, which most of you would have probably visited. So we borrowed from there, and the entire project, other than inside of an office, is radiant cooled. There is no air conditioning. The building you see, the small building on the left hand side, is what they call Diamond Club. It's a convention center, as well as time to time fairs are held in here for finished goods. So, as I said, it has microclimate of the campus is reduced by through radiant cooling by 5 to 7 degrees. Essential amenities, medical center, travel desk, crash, shopping, restaurants, all of these things are part of the base of the project. All these square holes that you see, they're actually holes, they're not windows. All of these squares that you see are holes. This is a little bit more detailed as to how we expect, we know the sun will travel, how they are outdoor green spaces. When it is not tolerable in the middle of the day, they are indoor, what we call green lungs. And this is a picture, these are pictures, these are still while the planting is still just started. And these are images of some of the green lungs. This is during construction, the radiant cooling getting laid. And you can see the holes that you see on the right hand side of that first image, they're actually holes. This is a small sectional drawing showing how the lungs are traveling through the building. And the cross ventilation, the blue arrows are talking about the cross ventilation that is always happening. So as you move down the length, the holes are letting the air go this way and this way. And so there's 20 kilometers of running length of radiant cooling per floor. So now these holes, as I'm calling them, are actually contextually inspired because, as you well know, Gujarat is famous for this, right? So these jalis did exactly the same job as those holes are doing across the entire building. So the spine or the public space is actually not walls, is actually the whole red surface is a perforated jali. So now you see the images through it. It's only in one image I can actually see that it's a hole, but they're all holes. It's a tool to promote equality and democracy, and that the reason that we have made very, very non-hierarchical spaces is because it has to gel with the philosophy of the client. So the client had no, okay, this is the 300 square feet office wala people on this wing, and this VIP stone-clad wing has 7,000 square feet. So none of that stuff. They are all equitable. They are all on the same floors, distributed equally. So, and you'll be surprised, a lottery system was used to decide who gets to go where. There is no VIP zone, no rich trader, poor trader, none of that story, right? So, therefore, all spaces had to be equally accessible to all because there is no lower group, higher group happening over here in this project. So now, when I spoke about why I admire this community, so this drawing on the left shows that before Surat Diamond Bourse was made, most of the Surat polishers had to travel to Mumbai, and the ones who were actually lower down in the rung financially had to come back every day because living in Mumbai is not possible. So person woke up at 4, got to the station at 5:30, reached Mumbai station at 9:30, did all day work out in the open, and reached Surat at 10:30 p.m. at night. So this was the daily life cycle, and these are actually how they traveled and worked. And these are some images of how diamond workers used to work before. And how not only do they trade, they also eat outside. Because when they're going every day and coming back every day and they don't have offices, obviously they eat outside. So the courtyard served those purposes. Because there is no reason to take away from a well-established norm that they have. It's also their community engagement. They sit and eat with a different person outside every day. So this is construction during COVID. Okay, construction, other than lockdown 1, which lasted 2 months or 2.5 months in Gujarat, there was no shutting down of construction. What they would do, they made, at the start of COVID, they made those accommodations like barracks. And barracks had no kitchens because they made food for everyone who worked on this site. 3 meals a day and a snack. But they were never allowed to leave this site, much like COVID, but they did their own, they made their own city, because as you can see near there is no city till Surat. They made their own town, they looked after everyone, there was a hospital on site, there was a COVID isolation center, and there was food for everyone made together. So when in between COVID, whenever travel was allowed and our team went, some of them are there in that picture, went to site, they also had to eat the same food because no outside food, no nothing was allowed. Only outside people had to wear masks. Construction workers said they're too suffocated. So people who lived here did not have to wear masks. So they made their own system by which they were going to be effective. So these are some during construction pictures. And very complex construction was done during COVID. I'll tell you examples. All that glass. So glass processing was not becoming possible from whichever big city it was supposed to get done and brought. So they moved the processing unit of the vendor to Surat. So the site had a processing unit for glass as well. So CNC cutting machines for the stone were moved to site. So everything was moved here. So this is the site on a normal day. So there would be alarms would go off and sirens would go off and everybody would come out of the barracks and they would report to the site. So this was an everyday situation during COVID on this site. Small changes, for example, the stone was originally ruby red and was supposed to come from the south. During COVID, we were told, get as local as you can, get as local. We have control in Gujarat, we can get stuff done in Gujarat during COVID. So a stone which was from the border of Rajasthan and Gujarat was found, which is actually even more beautiful than ruby red. Tiles were all manufactured by local manufacturer, not one of the branded ones, but also in Morbi. But what they did was they chose a small local manufacturer who was then not manufacturing for anyone else. He became captive and manufactured all the tiles for the project. So similarly, stone people were moved to site. So we also used, there the voids are from a jali, and here it's actually a jali hiding a fire stair. And I've always loved the play of shade and shadow that jalis do. This was the few interior elements, very minimalistic, were kept here. And they were all derived from the marine, Surat was a major port, which is major trading center. So from that inspiration, so this is a 14-floor high water droplet. So all the furniture, because when you make a building this large, you can't just put a sofa, right? So all the public waiting areas are actually to this scale. And I specifically asked a gentleman to sit so that you get a sense of the scale of the public furniture. So this is all the waiting area. There are no sofas or chairs or any such thing in this project. The entrance to each individual lobby, entrance to the Diamond Club. This is the main lobby. And through that you see the public waiting areas. And this is the building at night. So as you can now understand why it looks like a jali. Yep. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause for architect Sonali. Sonali ma'am, you mentioned about international media houses making you viral. I don't know whether you'd count Rana Parivar family group, my family's WhatsApp group, as one of the media houses, but you went super viral there.
I know.
That is how I got to know about this. And ma'am, by the way, this project is once in a lifetime. And you are, you set concrete, you set stone to that. Thank you so much for taking us on that journey. I did not hear a squeak everybody was paying attention. That is the kind of attention that you got, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause again? Absolutely stunning. We request Ms. Vartika to please present Architect Sonali with the token of our appreciation.